Hi, I'm Dave Haddon, Warden of Worlds here at Orthane Productions, and author of the Kingdom of Keshanar, a full ancient Egypt-inspired TTRPG setting for 5e. This project combines two of my great passions, ancient Egypt and D&D. Ancient Egypt is utterly fascinating, and I've been obsessed by it since I was a child. And this is one of the main reasons why I chose it as my first homebrew campaign in high school. This was inspired by the first TRS modules I ever bought and ran, the Desert of Desolation series by Tracy and Laura Hickman in 1982. I ran it right after I graduated from high school. Tracy and Laura Hickman were a husband and wife powerhouse writing team, and Pharaoh, the first module of Desert of Desolation, was one of their first two modules, and it's my favorite to this day. In fact, here are my original first run copies. Pharaoh, Oasis of the White Palm, and The Lost Tomb of Martek. Prized possessions. Of course, they went on to write Ravenloft, the Dragonlance series, and dozens of other titles. Tracy even wrote a Batman novel. Tracy, if you ever watch this, know that you are a huge inspiration of mine, and thank you and Laura for all the work you have done over the years for the TTRPG community, creating this incredible content. Anyway, back to ancient Egypt and why I chose it as a setting for my soon-to-be-released campaign setting, the Kingdom of Keshanar. The ancient Egyptians were doing amazing things like building the pyramids when most of the rest of the world was wandering around in animal skins. And so many discoveries that we attribute to either ourselves or to other cultures actually trace back to ancient Egypt, such as boats that could navigate large bodies of water. The ancient Egyptians not only had boats that could navigate the Red Sea, but they could disassemble them, carry them across hundreds of miles, and then reassemble them and use them again. Do you know why we have 365 days in our calendar year? It's because we use the ancient Egyptian calendar. Also, women's rights in ancient Egypt were very advanced. Women held public office, and they could hold power over men politically and in their occupations. They also had equal rights under the law. Interestingly, all landed property descended in the female line from mother to daughter. We're going to make a separate video about that to explore it more. But it took the United States and Europe millennia to catch up to ancient Egyptian standards of equal rights between women and men. And even then, only in the past 50 years maybe. The ancient Egyptians invented modern paper, using reeds to weave them together to make papyrus. Here's some examples. We found this in tombs 5,000 years later, and it was still held together. It's pretty incredible stuff. I mean, we make our paper very similarly, except instead of using reeds, we use wood, right? They also invented the first writing system around the same time as the Mesopotamians. And we all recognize this. It's hieroglyphics. And then hieroglyphics later evolved into a cursive writing system called hieratic. Here's an example. You can see it's really similar to a lot of modern writing systems like Arabic or even English. The Egyptians also invented observational medicine. I mean, they had surgical procedures, over 60 of them. They used moldy bread as an antibiotic, and they had pregnancy tests. They had the most advanced architectural techniques of the ancient world. We're going to explore that in a separate video also. So in terms of inspiration for tabletop RPGs, there are four main things that really blow my mind about ancient Egyptian culture and were heavy influences in creating the Kingdom of Keshanar. Number one, their gods. Their gods are really interesting. There's a lot of them actually, over 2,000. Although we're mainly familiar with the Ennead, the 9 primary gods. Ra was the sun god. He chased Apep across the sky every day with his son, Set, who originally was the god of the desert. They kept Apep on his toes because he was the great worm of destruction, and he would eventually bring about the destruction of the universe. And when the sun set, that's because Ra and Set were chasing him through the underworld at night. But then Set became jealous of the attention that was given to his brother Osiris, god of nature and the underworld, so he decided to murder him. Fortunately, Osiris' wife Isis is the goddess of magic. She managed to put them back together, and now essentially Osiris is a dead god. Necromancy, anyone? In Kehshanar, necromancy is a completely normal thing. In fact, they use skeletons called duskers to clean the streets, trim the hedges, perform guard duties. They even have seeing eye skeletal dusker dogs to help the blind navigate the streets. Why not, right? All the gods have really interesting stories and lore, which is integral to the lore in Kehshanar. And of course, the gods in the Kingdom of Keshanar will be making a lot more frequent appearances than they probably did in actual ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians were obsessed with magic and magic items, such as protective amulets, tattoos, and other items. Magic was codified by spells, such as the 189 spells in the Book of the Dead. Spellbook, anyone? Magic was the way the people and the priests interacted with their gods and also the natural world. It created a perfect balance called Ma'at. We have created custom spells and magic items in Kehshanar that are inspired by ancient Egyptian actual magic. Number 3. Mythical Creatures. There is one mythical creature that is central to the entire story of the Kehshanar campaign, the Phoenix. Often attributed to Greek culture, the Phoenix originated in ancient Egypt and is based on the Bennu bird. Ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaoh was chosen by the gods. This is also true in Kehshanar. When the pharaoh dies, the Phoenix appears and chooses the most worthy of the Keshite people to be the new pharaoh. This creates some interesting political dynamics. For instance, in ancient Egypt, as in most ancient cultures, and even our own history, there was slavery. In Kehshanar, there was slavery for a period of time in their early history until the Phoenix decided that a slave was the most worthy person in the empire to become pharaoh. Other interesting ancient Egyptian mythical creatures you will recognize include the Sphinx, a host of demons, and griffins. Remember Apap? Talked about him a bit earlier. The great worm of destruction that will eventually destroy the universe. He is probably inspiration for a lot of early concepts of dragons. Number 4. Their architecture. Of the 7 wonders of the world, only the Great Pyramid of Giza still stands. Why is this? Well, the ancient Egyptians really knew how to build stuff. Most of the magnificent edifices built by our ancestors wind up as rubble. The main reason for this is that they are eventually destroyed by earthquakes. The ancient Egyptians, however, figured out masonry techniques that were earthquake resistant. They didn't use standard square masonry sizes for everything, for all of their stones. And so you'll see a lot of their stones have many different edges and angles. And the reason for that is it makes them harder for the walls to shake apart when they're under tectonic stress. This is not widely known, and it was only discovered quite recently. We're going to have a video about this also to dive into the whole architecture thing in a lot more detail. But here's how all this inspired the way we built Kehshanar. First of all, it's based on ancient Egyptian architectural styles. One of our illustrators was also an architect, and he and I collaborated with our larger team of Egyptologists and artists to create a style for Kehshanar that is very reminiscent of ancient Egypt. Then we went on to actually build the entire city using the Unreal Engine. Here it is. This is not a video game. We think of it as kind of the next level of interactive maps for TTRPGs. Hundreds of buildings with details about them are included here, such as the Pharaoh's palace, temples for all the major Egyptian gods, merchants, guild halls, tombs, pyramids, monuments, inns and taverns, even an entire sewer system and freshwater system for the city. They're all available to explore. One of the ways we envision this being used is the players outside of game time can download this and wander around the city and click on the buildings to learn more about Kehshanar. Okay, thanks for sticking with me. I plan to make more videos about Kehshanar in the near future. I'd also love to answer any questions that you might have.